The men with money who were once broke and had women when broke are good with women with money.
Yeah.
But the men with money who never got girls when they were broke are fish, and they get fished. It's like they get wheeled in and wrecked.
So everybody knows about the wall. When a woman hits a certain age, she hits the wall, and as far as her prime, it's over. And as far as her having her prospects, as far as getting a husband that she finds valuable, it's virtually over. So we all know about the wall. What the narrative is on the opposite end, as far as the man's end, is that we really don't have a decline until we are something like 70 or something, till we like even 60, maybe at the youngest 60, so we're good all the way up until that point. Now, listen, I'm going to just share my beliefs on this based on what I've seen, what I know, common sense, and to some degree, my experience. Before we get into it, please put a like on the vid. So what I talk about a lot is that you don't need to have money to get women, right? That is at the bottom rung of what's going on. So I say 4 things. Some people say 3. They say LMS, looks, money, status. Rolo says something like money, muscles, and game and stuff like that. What I say is looks, money, status, personality, and you will put game within that personality because at the end of the day, anything verbal, anything, as far as body language, anything in that realm of who you are, your identity, you following your passion, all of that stuff, that's going to be personality related. Now, the order that I stack these things up in, you have status at the top. Then after status, you have personality, because I debate with people about this all the time. There are ugly dudes who get a lot of babes. They get a lot of babes, and in some cases, they even be broke. But then after that comes looks, and then last comes money. So without going super deep, I'm going to just go through those very briefly. Status, if you are famous, if you are popular, or even if you have some type of authority or power or something to that degree, if everybody knows you, whatever, these are things that women pretty much flock to and things of that nature. You can't just have the wrong type of status. You got to have the right type of status. And I'll just keep it simple. I'll put something like pre-selection within that, because if you are known to have a lot of women and stuff like that, that'll get you more women. Dan Bilzerian has mentioned this a bunch of times. So with that, you have status. That is the number one thing. And there are different ways that it can work. You don't have to be Lil Wayne or something like that. There are different levels of status, and they all can get you babes. And it's the most potent thing. After that, you have personality. Shouldn't have to go deep on that. This is not just how you interact with women, but this is how you carry yourself through life. A quality like confidence will be in personality. If you don't have confidence, it doesn't matter what type of game you kicking or no stuff like that. Or, ooh, yeah, I fucking leaned on the countertop and winked my eye at her. But if you don't got no confidence, that stuff is not going to work. So at the end of the day, anything in that realm, and you could also have the $1 million mouthpiece. You got all that stuff, bro. That's all going to be in personality. That's something to where the way that you communicate, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you live, as far as who you actually are, your actual identity, is attractive to women. Now, after that, we get to looks. Why do we get to looks? At 3, because a lot of people think looks is number 1. There are a lot of good looking people with no game. There are a lot of good looking people that have no personality. There are a lot of good looking people with no status. I know a dude that is like worthy of being a supermodel for real. And that's no diddy. This is just real. Once he got a little bit of status, something that he didn't have before, his options went up so crazy. And this is the same guy that y'all been seeing all this time. People have been coming across this guy, but he's a regular guy. He wasn't popular. He didn't have status, but he was a regular guy. He was getting, the regular babes and stuff like that. Everybody wasn't going crazy. But once he got a little bit of status, boom, shot through the roof, options open. And these are the same people that walk past him every day. So without going too deep, that's looks. Looks are great Looks can get your foot in the door, but looks are definitely not as powerful as status and personality. They're just not. And you got to have one of those things going for you to some degree, or you got to have the last thing going for you to some degree with looks. It's got to be paired with something else. It can't just be looks by itself, because a lot of people with looks fumble all the time. And then we get to money. Money is the thing the women get in these relationship conversations and talk about so much. It's something that they love. Ultimately, it's a resource. Money is power. And when you look at money, it's not necessarily the money by itself, but it's what you do with the money and what the money can provide. You having a bunch of money means nothing, but you having a place to stay for a woman that's actually very nice and you welcoming her into that place, that's something. You having a bunch of money means nothing, but you pulling up in a, whatever, some crazy car, Lamborghini or something like that, that's crazy. Especially, just even forget that. You having a car when a chick doesn't have a car, that puts you in a position to where you are beneficial to her. So the thing about money that is different than all these other things, people cannot use you for your personality. People may try to use you for your status. People are not going to use you for your looks in most cases. You could really think of stuff like, okay, how can people use you and stuff like, but listen, when it comes to money, it is clear cut. It is not subjective. It is not something you even have to begin to ponder and think about. It is possible for people in general to use you for your money. So now that we have that, let's go and talk about the broke guy very quickly, but specifically the broke young guy. So when you are broke and you are between the ages, forget 16, forget all of that stuff. We gonna go 20. We're not even going teenage years. We're going 20 to about 26. That's a small time frame. That's a 6-year time frame. But let's just say that you broke during those years. You were like just cooked. You're flat broke. You work at like wherever you work, like, Steak and Shake or something like that. You're cooked, right? You would think you're cooked. This is the thing when it comes down to that. You have been and forget about whatever luck you had. Let's pretend you had bad luck. From the ages of 20 to 26, you know somebody, or you fuck somebody. You know multiple people who have had a girlfriend or multiple girlfriends, or who have ran through a bunch of chicks. We talking about 10 bodies, 20 bodies, 100 bodies. And these guys really don't got no money. They really don't make any significant money. Some of them was living with their parents. Some of them were living in shitty apartments, and they have 3 roommates in a 1-bedroom type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to that, there are guys in that age bracket getting women. Now, what type of women are they getting? Before we get to type, let's just look at the ages. The ages are going to be anywhere from 18, if we're being honest, to 40 something. That might sound ridiculous, but a lot of cougars be trying to smash the young dudes. Trust me, I know. What are some of the things that young dudes do? They go out and they go to the mall, they holler at chicks, you're sending all the DMs, you're trying to get it cracking, all this stuff. You're trying to just, when it comes to certain types of young dudes, just trying to have as much sex as you can, trying to get as many babes as you can, et cetera, et cetera. That's how some people live their life in their early 20s, and then just fucks the rest of their life up because they had kids out of wedlock and stuff, but we're not going to get that deep. But when we talk about a young guy, there's a couple things. So the first thing is, how did these women look at this guy? What about these guys? Like, let's just take one broke young individual that is having a bunch of sex or whatever. How is it happening? What is it about this guy that's going on? Let's just say he looks okay. Let's just say he looks average. We're not going to say that he's ugly. We're not going to say that he's ultra handsome. Let's just say that he looks average. The one thing that he does have is his youth about him in the looks department. He is youthful. So that's one thing. You would think that that's not valuable. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. From a status perspective, he could just be a popular guy and that popularity carried from high school, or it might not have even carried from high school. He may have became popular on the club scene recently. And even then, he might just be dancing with a lot of chicks. He might be in a club making out with a lot of chicks, whatever. But that's one thing that could be there about him. But in most cases, when you look at this, because the money is just not there. And they could dress well and stuff like that. They could be trendy or whatever, because a lot of dudes go broke trying to look good in their 20s and stuff like that. But listen, as far as, dressing. But listen, it's always going to be something about the personality that is making him get these chicks. He's more than likely going to be a fun guy. He's going to be bold to some degree. Even then, they like to, as far as the fun, a situation that a lot of people experience when they're younger is going on a 2-man, 3-man. We used to call them missions and stuff like that. They'll go on missions. Sometimes they'll bring a bottle. Sometimes they won't. And we link up with a bunch of chicks and stuff like that. And we chop it up. We have fun interactions and stuff. We laugh. We joke. We flirt. Then hopefully we smash. But let me just break down something very quickly as far as both ends of the spectrum. The one thing that both sides have in common when it comes to money is that they don't expect a 20 to 26-year-old to figure it out or to have it figured out or to be a provider or to have money. That expectation is not there. They expect you in the money department to not be shit. So very simply put, if you were putting your bid in as a broke young 20-year-old and stuff like that, and you flirting with these chicks, you trying to figure out who attracted to you, whatever the case may be, you moving and grooving, you trying to get yours. Nobody is going to be looking for you to provide in your early 20s. Now that goes all the way to from the 18-year-olds who really aren't looking for a provider, all the way to the 40-year-olds who are deep into their search for a provider. But guess what? They look at the young guys as fun young cock. That's what they do. So with that being said, all of that culminates to when you were young, the perception is different. Now we're going to begin to go to the other side. And this is something that I actually experienced because there was a shift. I was talking to people in their 40s and stuff like that when I was in my late 20s and stuff like that. But once I hit 31, 32, and in that ballpark, and I'm even talking to chicks my age, some of the conversations began to change. Certain questions that were never asked of me before were getting asked now. Certain questions, and I'm talking about first interactions. I'm talking about when I first talk to a chick or when I first get the number, they are trying to figure out where I work to size me up. They're trying to figure out, do you got a crib? Do you stay in an apartment or house? Okay, do you drive? Well, what do you drive? These types of questions. And this is basic. As a grown man, of course, this is going to be basic to you. But this is the thing. It's something to notice and take note of, because when I was 25 and I was talking to 40-year-olds or I was talking to 30-year-olds or I was talking to 20-year-olds, nobody was asking this shit. Nobody was asking this shit. Now, listen, your experience might be different, but that's not the point. The point that I'm trying to make is two things. Number one, when you hit a certain age, there begins to be a different expectation of you as a man from women. Why is that? Because older guys are supposed to be the providers. That's what it is. They expect you at that point in life to have it figured out. Even if you look at society, perfect example, I just heard Central C, a rapper, say he was trying to figure out his exit plan. He don't want to be rapping by 30, even though he's making millions off of rapping. Young people, even young men, think that by the time they are 30, it is just going to be all figured out, and they're going to have the career. Everything is going to be good, and they're going to be making money, and that's what it's, and don't get it twisted. A lot of them do. But what I'm trying to tell you is that is a societal expectation of older men. So that's the first thing. So they look at you like you were supposed to have the bread. You were supposed to be a provider now. So that's not just women. That's a societal thing. That's just what it is. But let's go to the other side, which is still their side, and look at what they are actually looking for. What are they actually looking for? They are looking to be saved at this point. Now you may ask, well, isn't that just what you said in the last thing? No, let's go back a little bit. What were they looking for in their 20s, in their teen years, as far as 18, 19? What were they looking for? They were looking for fun. They were looking to live out their party years. They were looking for a boyfriend that was just cool. Didn't have to have money, just a cool boyfriend. They were looking for casual sex. They were looking to have fun. They were looking to experience. That's what was going on in their 20s. Once they hit their late 20s and get into their 30s, especially up to the mid 30s at the latest, that's when the mating schedule hits the, okay, we're done with all of that. They flick the switch. Let's turn that off. Let's find somebody who will be a good father to these kids that I had in my party years. Let's find somebody who is going to be willing to provide for me so that I don't have to work. That would be so ideal. But even if I still have to work, it has to be a guy who can provide more than what I make, a guy who is superior financially. I want to be saved. Oh my goodness, this adulting shit and living life and what feminism has, pretty much gave us as far as us being able to work. I don't really want it. I want a guy to save me. That's where they're at. That is the difference between 35 and 22 or 25. So when you look at that, 30 is not old. You still have some of your youth when you're 30 and stuff like that. And you could still be out here having casual sex or, having girlfriends or whatever the case may be. You could still get it off your personality. You could still get it off your status. You could still do all of that. But when it comes to the women, they change a little bit. They change a little bit. And the funny thing about this is why a lot of older guys like Leonardo DiCaprio, who was a multi-millionaire, like just out of here, like something crazy, will go and scoop a chick that's 22 or something like that because they haven't been through what the 38, 47-year-olds have been through. They haven't been indoctrinated to nagging a man about his money and all of this stuff and just, oh, this is how I'm going to play it to a guy when it comes to his money. They haven't been, indoctrinated to that yet. And also on top of that, they are not looking for that. They will be just ecstatic to have that. Like a guy that can provide. I wasn't even looking for that. Well, thank you. But that is also why guys get shamed. Because they're not getting shamed by 22-year-olds for dating a 20. No. They are getting shamed by anybody 28. If they're in that pocket, 28 to 60 is a woman. They gonna shame the guy for being with another adult that is of a lower age, like 22, 25, 26. And it's strictly because of competition. That's all that is. They don't want the competition. They don't want to have to compete. It's enough to compete against other 30-year-olds, other 40-year-olds, even in some cases, other 50-year-olds for these guys. And if you 48 or 52 looking for another 48 or 52-year-old guy, or even a 60-some-year-old guy, the last thing you want is competition from a woman that you can't compete with as far as what men like, which the main thing guys like is looks. It weighs a lot different when we look at what men value from women. So just so you understand the context of where we're about to go, we're talking about dating and potentially trying to find a mate as far as a wife or something like that, or even playing a field. We are not talking about having kids. That is where we do not have a biological clock. We could do that forever. So that's an advantage that we do have. But outside of that, what I need you to do, this could apply to some 40-year-olds, but we're going to focus on the age 50 and above. 50 and above. So imagine somebody 55 when I'm saying this. You know, if you're trying to date somebody in their 30s, these are still going to be the same chicks who are in that pocket looking for a provider and stuff like that. That's cool. And even then, you remember I mentioned if you're in your 30s, you could still have casual sex. You could still have all the options and stuff like that. If you're 50, you could still do that as well. It's going to play out a bit different for a few different reasons. So let me go back to the first one that I was saying. So when we go down the basis of attraction that I mentioned earlier, the first thing we're going to talk about is personality. Personality wise, you may have cultivated so much game and stuff like that, but I'll be honest, you're probably going to be tired of the game at 50. You probably won't want to have as much casual sex as a 20-year-old or anything, or even a 30-year-old at that point. I could be wrong on that. Now, you will still want sex, but you'll be a lot more mature. Now, one of the ways that older women try to shame older guys for having sex or just even being with younger women is by saying, what do y'all have in common? Y'all don't have anything in common. What are y'all going to talk about? All that stuff. Well, just to be honest, before we even get to that, that's just a defense mechanism. They are trying to shame the guy and disqualify the woman. That's all they're trying to do because they don't want to lose that possible prospect. They get upset at the sight of that. It reminds them that their value is diminishing. But this is the thing about that. What men and women have in common universally is that we are attracted to each other, period, point blank. So if there is some sexual attraction there, that's going to be a basis, and that's basis enough. But even outside of that, the one issue that you will have is cultural differences and things of that nature because she's younger. But even outside of that, if we look at, passport bros and things like that, they deal with women from different cultures all the time. So it's just a different type of culture. And what I mean by that is, unlike getting a chick from Spain or something like that, you're dealing with a younger woman, so it's going to be Gen Z culture or Gen whatever the fuck, I don't know. But listen, when it comes to compatibility, that'll be the biggest hurdle, if any hurdle. So that knocks personality out. The second thing that you have is status. Now, when it comes to status, this is going to be a little bit different because it's possible for somebody that's a 50-year-old to have a status that a 20, 30, and sometimes even 40-year-old can't attain. But it's typically going to be professional status. It's not going to be something like social status that she even gives a fuck about because you may be like a guy that is, oh, you're like a philanthropist or something like that, and you be going to fucking wine tastings and shit like that. She don't know nothing about that shit. But listen, when it comes to status, you may be in a position where you have resources, which kind of boils back down to money, but you have resources that could put her in positions that other guys typically can't. So let's just get that out the way as far as status. Now, when we go to looks, let's just kill this easily. Listen, the two things are certain. Number one, looks are not the primary factor of why a guy is attractive, so that plays to our advantage, especially in older age. But the second thing is, most chicks that are dating older guys are not dating them for their looks. So let's just get that the fuck out the way. We're not even gonna entertain that. We won't. I won't waste your time. So let's get to money because that's where things really shift. When we talk about an older guy, the reason that people like Kevin Samuels say that, everything gets better when you get older and it's just so marvelous and stuff like that. The reason that they say that is because at that point, it is paid to play. Most women, especially younger women, will want you almost exclusively for your money at this point in life. And also, this is the other thing why it just gets so much greater if you have no problem with that. You're supposed to earn a lot more at that point. in your life. The way that things ideally work is in your 30s, you make more than you made in your 20s. In your 40s, you make more than you made in your 30s, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And by the time that you're 70, 85 or anything like that, you know, you're getting your cock sucked in a nursing home because you got so much money. That's how people on the internet pretty much paint the picture. Now, again, Kevin Samuels were one of the people who pretty much pushed this narrative heavily. And you have to look at Kevin and his definition of a high value man, which I'm going to put it on the screen. Most of it is career based, it's career and status based. And if you also know his content, he's talked about getting escorts at some point on Fresh and Fit and stuff like that, high end escorts. So if you're cool with the Anna Nicole type setup and stuff like that, where you are strictly wanted for your money and this woman actually does not like you and all of that stuff, then yeah, this is going to be great for you because you can have a lot of sex for money and even get some of the baddest chicks that you ever had in your life because you can pay for them. You can now afford them. To me personally, that doesn't sound appealing. So just to recap on this back end, when women hit around 30, they begin to prioritize security and getting a provider and things of that nature over what they prioritized in their 20s and stuff like that, which was having fun. So in their 30s, they begin to look for that security from a man. The older you get as a guy, your money should increase, which will increase your value in one of the categories. When it comes to anything in the personality bracket, that is going to be the biggest saving grace you possibly have outside of money. But the issue with that is that there may be a culture difference and even a relatability difference because you're at two different places in life. Outside of that, the status that you have, for example, something like a lawyer or a doctor, like Kevin Samuels mentioned in his, by that's not the stuff that percolates the coochie and get the coochie wet. The status that gets chicks and stuff like that excites chicks is typically stuff like, oh, he's a DJ. Oh, he's a party promoter. Oh, he's pre-selected with a bunch of chicks as far as my peers. A lot of them like him or had sex with him and things like that. The status is different. The status as far as being a lawyer is connected to money. That doesn't get the coochie wet, but it makes them throw the coochie at you to try and get your resources at best. And the last thing, when it comes to looks, that is going to be the lowest category. That is going to be where you have the decline at to some degree. Even if you look amazing, you can look absolutely amazing as a 50-year-old. You're still going to look like a 50-year-old next to a 20-year-old as far as a 20-year-old guy. There's going to be a difference, even a 30-year-old guy. And let me tell you something that I know for a fact, just because when I hit 30, my knees start cracking and all this stuff, bro. Listen, it's going to be harder in your 50s to be in peak physical condition in comparison to when you were in your 20s or anything like that. Now, that's pretty much it. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is if you are 50, 60, 40, I already know 40 be getting down. But if you were 50, 60, and you were out here in the date market, and you're really having your way and stuff like that, and it's not because of your money, let me know in the comments, because I'm not in that age bracket. I could be completely wrong. I'm just going based off what I see, what I know, common sense, things like that. And regardless, I don't get up here like I'm a guru and I know everything and I'm trying to guide everybody to the promise. I don't do that. I don't know everything, bro. So if you got some knowledge to kick, put it in the comments. I'm cool with it. Just don't be condescending. That's all I ask. So it comes down to that. If you are older, like 45, 50, 60, anything like that, let me know your experience in the date market currently or for the past 10 years. And also leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts regardless what age you are. I'm out.